Who would have thought that something as small as a wing tweak could shake up the entire championship? Well, that's exactly what's happening as all eyes turn toward Barcelona. Red Bull is keeping a close watch, and for good reason. The new technical rule changes are set to challenge teams like McLaren, who've made the most of flexible car components, especially that front wing, which many believe gave them a massive edge. Red Bull and Ferrari didn't just notice it. They raised their concerns directly to the FIA. The belief is that McLaren may have pushed the limits of what's allowed, crafting a design that, while technically passing inspections, might not align with the original spirit of the rules. Although the FIA didn't label any car as illegal, they didn't ignore the issue either. New guidelines are being rolled out starting in Barcelona, and Red Bull is expecting a serious drop in McLaren's performance once that wing flexibility is limited. The question now is, will it be enough to close the gap? The belief inside Red Bull's camp is clear. McLaren's strong grip on downforce owes a lot to that clever front wing setup. Now that changes are being enforced, Red Bull senses a real opportunity. With their own development updates lined up, they're pushing hard to give Max Verstappen the tools to go for a fifth title. After just 3 races and a sprint, Max trails Norris by a single point. It's close, uncomfortably close for a team used to leading. Team principal Christian Horner spoke with caution but didn't hide the uncertainty. According to him, the impact of the new rule isn't fully understood yet. Every car has a very specific range in which it performs best, and messing with a component as crucial as the front wing could throw off that delicate balance. He acknowledged that they're aware of areas that still need fixing, and the entire crew is laser-focused on those weak points. But he also hinted that this season may come down to who can make the most of every single chance. There's one thing McLaren has been doing better than anyone else this season: handling the tires. Whether it's scorching heat or pouring rain, their car seems to maintain grip and performance like clockwork. But even with that advantage, they weren't perfect. At Suzuka, things didn't quite go their way. Team principal Andrea Stella pointed out that he preferred the older surface of the track, hinting that the new conditions may have played a part in their slight dip. Still, the team isn't taking any chances. McLaren is preparing fresh updates to tackle issues head-on. Despite their car being arguably the strongest on the grid, they're not slowing down. Andrea Stella also touched on the upcoming regulation targeting the rear wing, which includes the so-called mini DRS element. Interestingly, this feature first appeared on McLaren's car back in Baku last year, and now it's getting attention again just as the FIA begins tightening the rules even further from the next race. When asked if the team needs to make big changes, Andrea Stella calmly said, "There's hardly anything that needs fixing before the season kicks off." However, by the 9th race, a few small tweaks might be necessary. He acknowledged that while the topic has caught a lot of attention, their actual concerns lie elsewhere, specifically in finding those tiny performance gains that can shave off fractions of a second. These are the areas that truly keep the engineers on their toes. There's also been a shift behind the scenes at McLaren. CEO Zak Brown shared that the team's attitude for 2025 is very different. Instead of trying to match their rivals, the new mindset is about staying ahead. He hinted at some bold risks taken in the car's design this year, moves that could either pay off big or bring challenges. But according to him, that's what it takes to be at the top. It's no longer about playing it safe. It's about being aggressive, smart, and always one step ahead of everyone else. Red Bull, on the other hand, isn't staying silent. They've made it clear. Some teams are still gaining from the mini DRS concept, and they're convinced McLaren's flexible front wing is giving them a serious edge. That's why they've brought in Yuki Tsunoda to gather as much technical feedback as possible before the first wave of upgrades. The timing is crucial. Red Bull knows they don't need the absolute fastest car to win. History proves it. Take Verstappen, for example. He's shown time and again that even without the strongest machine, He can outperform expectations. Back in the early 80s, drivers like Keke Rosberg and Nelson Piquet pulled off titles without dominating cars. Verstappen is trying to do something similar. If Red Bull can close the gap by just a couple of tenths, especially with how tightly packed the grid is, they'll be in a strong position to strike back in the title race. And that's exactly what they're aiming for. Red Bull's engineers are working around the clock to fine-tune their machine. The current car has a narrow setup window, which means it performs well only under very specific conditions. More often than not, it's Verstappen's skill behind the wheel that's keeping them in the fight. Every single point they've earned this season has come from him, proof of just how much the team is, depending on their star driver to carry the load. Verstappen himself isn't shying away from admitting the car has limitations. In his own words, only about a quarter of their intended progress has been achieved so far, especially when it comes to balancing the aerodynamics. He says the issues haven't been fully solved, and there's no clear timeline on when they'll be fixed. What they're trying to do right now is simply push the car as far as it'll go without stepping into trouble. It's a tricky balancing act, but one they believe is necessary to stay in contention. Verstappen's approach is simple, but effective. Find those few hundredths of a second that could make all the difference in each corner, and that's how they'll get closer to the top. He emphasized that small improvements here and there could put them on pace with the leaders. But the goal is clear: to improve the car's stability, making it easier for the drivers to push it to its limits without feeling like they're walking a tightrope. With the race for the championship getting tighter, Red Bull is also keeping a close eye on McLaren. The way their drivers, Norris and Piastri, are collecting points off each other is something Verstappen could exploit. If they keep taking points from each other, it gives Red Bull a chance to take advantage of any missteps. The title fight isn't just about having the fastest car. It's about strategy, consistency, and capitalizing on every opportunity. With the new technical regulations in place starting from Barcelona, all eyes are on McLaren to see if their car's performance will take a hit. If the changes do impact them, Red Bull might find themselves in a prime position to close the gap and challenge for the title. However, McLaren is confident that they won't be significantly affected, which would leave Red Bull in a tough spot. There's also the matter of Red Bull's internal challenges. The departure of key staff, like Rob Marshall, to McLaren has undeniably impacted their development. Marco, the team's advisor, even set a 5-race timeline for Red Bull's upgrades. If they don't hit those targets, they could be looking at a difficult remainder of the season. Verstappen, while focused on extracting every bit of performance, knows the team has to adapt quickly to stay in the fight. So, the big question remains: will Barcelona be a turning point in the battle for the title, or will McLaren continue their dominance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to click on the next video to keep up with the latest updates.